All right, so we're diving into PJ's blog post today. Product Mindset PM versus PO, published January 14th this year. It really gets into the sometimes confusing roles of product managers and product owners.
Yeah, definitely.
We see a lot of discussion about this online. We're
Vastly.
going to go a little deeper than just, rehashing what PJ wrote and really unpack the why behind it all,
Yeah.
especially for, our listeners who are already pretty familiar with PMs and POs.
Right. And I think what's so interesting is how PJ highlights the distinct origins of these roles.
Mm-hmm.
Like we often think of them as so intertwined, but PMs actually emerged from those like marketing-focused brand men of the 1930s, whereas POs are much more recent. They're really a product of the agile boom in the 2000s.
Huh. That's interesting. I mean, it makes you wonder how, with such different starting points, their paths have converged so closely in like the modern product development world.
Yeah, it really does. And I think PJ makes a great point that focusing on responsibilities rather than titles is key. It's not about the label. It's about what each person actually does.
Okay, so let's get concrete. Let's say I'm in a meeting and someone says, I'm the PM for this project. What should I actually picture them doing? What are their core responsibilities?
Okay, so think of them as like the mini CEO of your product. They're the ones setting the vision. They're conducting market research to understand customer needs, competitive pressures, and ultimately they build the roadmap that dictates where the product is headed. And they're also responsible for tracking metrics and making sure the product is meeting its goals, whether that's user growth, revenue targets, or something else entirely.
Okay, so big picture thinking, keen eye on the market. Now, where does the PO fit into all of this? How do their responsibilities differ, especially when we're talking about a company that's really embracing agile methodologies?
Right. So in a truly agile environment, the PO acts as the voice of the customer, making sure the development team is building the right things in the right order. They own the product backlog. They meticulously craft user stories that capture the essence of customer needs. And they make tough prioritization calls to ensure each sprint delivers maximum value.
Okay, so while the PM has that strategic, outward-facing focus, the PO is more technical, working closely with the development team to translate that vision into reality. But PJ mentions that things aren't always this clear-cut, especially in the startup world.
Oh, absolutely. In a resource-constrained environment, one person might be doing both jobs, wearing both hats, strategist and tactician. And this hybrid approach can be incredibly effective in the early stages. But as a company scales, separating those responsibilities becomes crucial to avoid bottlenecks and ensure that both strategic and tactical work get the attention they deserve.
Yeah, that makes sense. You need that dedicated focus on both the big picture and the nitty-gritty details to scale effectively. But separating these roles, as PJ points out, can lead to its own set of challenges. What are some of the potential pitfalls teams need to be aware of?
Well, one major challenge is making sure that the PM's long-term vision aligns with the PO's sprint-by-sprint execution. If communication breaks down, you risk building features that don't actually move the product closer to its strategic goals. It's like building a magnificent bridge to nowhere, impressive engineering, but ultimately pointless.
So maintaining that constant communication and alignment between the PM and PO is crucial, especially as a company grows and complexity increases. But even with perfect communication, wouldn't there still be inherent tension between those long-term strategic goals and the need to deliver value in each sprint?
That's a great point. And that's where the ability to prioritize and make tough decisions becomes paramount for both roles. The PM might need to make concessions on certain features to ensure the product hits a key milestone, while the PO might need to push back against certain strategic initiatives if they jeopardize the team's ability to deliver a stable, high-quality product in the short term.
So it sounds like finding that balance between strategic vision and tactical execution. It's an ongoing negotiation requiring both the PM and PO to be strong communicators and skilled negotiators. Now, PJ also highlights some potential benefits of this overlap between PM and PO responsibilities, even in the larger organizations. What are some of the upsides?
One major benefit is the potential for cross-functional growth. When PMs and POs have exposure to each other's domains, they develop a more holistic understanding of the product development process. A PM who understands the technical complexities of the product can make more informed strategic decisions. And a PO who understands the market landscape can better prioritize features that deliver real value to customers.
So it's not just about avoiding conflict, it's about leveraging the overlap to build a more well-rounded and effective product team. What are some practical ways that teams can encourage this cross-pollination of knowledge and skills?
Well, PJ suggests fostering a culture of transparency and collaboration. where PMs and POs actively share their knowledge and insights with each other. This could involve joint workshops, shadowing each other's work, or simply having regular open communication channels. It's also beneficial to leverage shared tools like roadmaps and backlog management software to make sure everyone is on the same page and working towards a unified vision.
Okay, so those shared tools and a culture of open communication can help bridge the gap between strategic and tactical work. But PJ also emphasizes that the entire PM and PO landscape is constantly evolving, driven by industry trends that are reshaping what it means to be a product professional. What are some of the key trends that are pushing these roles in new directions?
Well, one major trend is the rise of hybrid roles, which we already touched upon. But even beyond that, we're seeing a growing emphasis on data-driven decision-making. Product teams are increasingly expected to base their decisions on data and analytics, rather than intuition or gut feelings. This requires PMs and POs to develop a deeper understanding of data analysis and learn how to extract meaningful insights from vast amounts of information.
So it's not enough to just have a good feeling about a feature anymore. You need to be able to back up your decisions with hard data. What are some other trends that are shaping the future of these roles?
Another major trend is the rise of AI, which is already impacting product management in profound ways. AI-powered tools can automate certain tasks like backlog prioritization and user story generation, freeing up PMs and POs to focus on higher-level strategic work. However, this also means that product professionals need to develop new skills to effectively leverage these tools and adapt to a changing work environment.
So it sounds like AI is both an opportunity and a challenge for PMs and POs. It can free up their time for more strategic work, but it also requires them to continuously learn and adapt to stay ahead of the curve. What other trends are on the horizon that our listeners should be aware of?
Another key trend is the growing emphasis on customer centricity. It's no longer enough to simply build a product and hope people will use it. Modern PMs and POs are expected to be deeply in tune with customer needs and preferences, constantly seeking feedback and iterating on their products based on user insights. This requires strong communication and empathy skills, as well as a willingness to embrace experimentation and learn from failure.
So the build it and they will come mentality is out, and a more collaborative, customer-centric approach is in. It seems like the bar is being raised for PMs and POs, who need to be more well-rounded than ever before.
Absolutely. They need to be strategic thinkers, data-driven decision makers, skilled communicators, and empathetic leaders, all while staying abreast of emerging technologies and evolving customer expectations. It's a challenging but incredibly rewarding field for those who are passionate about building great products and making a real impact. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of product managers and product owners.
Yeah, in part one, we really dug into the core responsibilities of PMs and POs, exploring how those roles play out in different environments, from agile startups to larger companies where those lines can get a bit blurry.
Right, and we also touched on the fact that this isn't a static field. The rise of data-driven decision-making AI and this laser focus on the customer experience. It's all pushing these roles in new directions. You mentioned that shift towards data-driven decision-making as a major trend impacting product management. What does that actually look like on a practical level? Can you give us an example of how a PM or PO might use data to make a critical decision? Sure, so let's say a company is debating whether to invest in a new feature for their mobile app. In the past, the decision might have been based on, gut feeling or anecdotal feedback. But in a data-driven environment, the PM would really dive into the analytics, looking at things like user engagement metrics, feature usage patterns, even competitor analysis. If the data shows that users are struggling with a particular task, or that a competitor is gaining traction with a similar feature, that provides concrete evidence to support the decision to invest in development.
So it's not just about collecting data, it's about knowing how to interpret it and extract those actionable insights. What are some of the key skills that PMs and POs need to develop to thrive in this data-driven world?
Well, data literacy is becoming increasingly important. PMs and POs need to understand basic statistical concepts, be able to work with data visualization tools, and develop a critical eye for identifying patterns and trends. They also need to be comfortable with A/B testing and other experimental approaches to validate their hypotheses and make data-informed decisions.
So PMs and POs are becoming more like data analysts in a way, needing to understand not just the what of the data, but also the so what, the implications for product strategy and development.
Absolutely. And this data-driven approach also ties into the growing importance of AI. AI can help automate some of the heavy lifting involved in data analysis, allowing PMs and POs to focus on extracting those higher-level insights and translating them into action.
Okay, so let's talk more about AI. We touched on it briefly in part one, but I think it deserves a deeper dive given how rapidly this technology is evolving. What are some specific ways that PMs and POs are currently using AI in their work?
One area where AI is having a major impact is in backlog prioritization. Traditionally, POs would manually prioritize features based on factors like business value, technical feasibility, and customer feedback. But now AI-powered tools can analyze vast amounts of data, including user behavior patterns, market trends, even code complexity, to suggest the optimal order for developing features. This can help POs make more objective and data-driven decisions, leading to faster development cycles and more successful product launches.
So AI can act like an intelligent assistant for the PO, helping them sift through the noise and identify the most impactful features to prioritize. What are some other ways AI is changing the game for product professionals?
AI is also being used to generate user stories. These are, short, simple descriptions of a feature from the user's perspective. Used by agile teams to define the scope of development work, AI tools can analyze existing user feedback, support tickets, even online reviews, to automatically generate user stories that accurately reflect customer needs and expectations. This can save POs a lot of time and effort, allowing them to focus on more strategic activities, like roadmap planning and stakeholder management.
These are some really concrete examples of how AI is already making a tangible difference in the daily work of PMs and POs. But there's also a lot of hype around AI, and it can be difficult to separate the reality from the science fiction. What are some of the potential pitfalls or limitations of AI that PMs and POs should be aware of?
Well, one key thing to remember is that AI is a tool, not a magic bullet. It can't replace the need for human judgment and creativity. PMs and POs still need to understand their customers deeply, identify their unmet needs, and develop a strategic vision for their products. AI can augment their abilities, but it can't replace the human element entirely. Another important consideration is that AI algorithms are only as good as the data they are trained on. If the data is biased or incomplete, the AI outputs will reflect those limitations. PMs and POs need to be critical consumers of AI-generated insights, always questioning the assumptions and biases that might be baked into the algorithms.
That's a crucial point. AI can be incredibly powerful, but it's not infallible. PMs and POs need to develop that critical thinking mindset and ensure they're not blindly following AI's recommendations without considering the broader context.
Exactly. They need to approach AI with a healthy dose of skepticism and always be asking, does this data truly represent our customers? Are we missing any critical nuances or edge cases that the AI might not be capturing?
It sounds like a lot of the skills we've been discussing, like data literacy, critical thinking, and a willingness to learn and adapt, are becoming even more crucial in this age of AI.
Absolutely. The future of product management is going to be shaped by those who can effectively leverage these tools while retaining that human-centric focus.
Now, we've talked a lot about how technology, particularly AI, is impacting the PM and PO roles. But what about the human side of things? What are some of the key leadership skills that PMs and POs need to cultivate in order to build and lead high-performing product teams?
One of the most important leadership skills for PMs and POs is the ability to build strong relationships. They need to be able to connect with their team members on a personal level, earn their trust, and create a collaborative and supportive work environment. They also need to be skilled communicators, able to articulate their vision clearly, listen attentively to feedback, and resolve conflicts constructively.
So it's not just about being a technical expert or a data whiz. It's about being a strong and empathetic leader who can inspire and motivate your team.
Precisely. And this is especially important in today's world of remote and hybrid work. Building relationships and maintaining team cohesion can be more challenging when you're not physically together. PMs and POs need to be more intentional about creating opportunities for connection and communication.
So maybe scheduling virtual coffee breaks or team building activities, using collaboration tools effectively to keep everyone in the loop, and making sure everyone feels heard and valued even from afar.
Exactly. Those small gestures can go a long way in building trust and fostering a positive team dynamic.
Now, PJ also touches on the fact that the PM and PO roles are not always clearly defined, especially as companies grow and their product development processes evolve. How can organizations create more clarity around these roles to avoid confusion and ensure everyone is working effectively towards a shared goal?
Well, one key step is to clearly document the responsibilities and accountabilities for each role. This doesn't have to be a rigid bureaucratic document, but it should provide enough clarity so that everyone understands who is responsible for what. It's also important to have open communication channels so that PMs and POs can regularly discuss their work, identify potential overlaps or gaps, and collaboratively resolve any issues that arise.
So having those clear lines of responsibility, but also fostering a culture of open communication where those lines can be flexed as needed based on the specific project or the company's evolving needs.
Exactly. It's about finding the right balance between structure and flexibility, recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to defining these roles.
And it seems like the specific industry or type of product being developed might influence how these roles are structured. For example, in a highly regulated industry like healthcare, the PO might need a deeper understanding of compliance requirements. While in a fast-paced consumer tech company, the emphasis might be more on rapid iteration and data-driven experimentation.
You're absolutely right. The context matters a lot. Companies need to tailor their approach to defining these roles based on their industry, their product, and their overall business strategy.
Now, all this talk about evolving roles and responsibilities raises an interesting question. How does the changing nature of PM and PO work impact the relationship with the development team? Traditionally, there's been a somewhat hierarchical structure, with the PM setting the direction and the developers executing on that vision. But with more emphasis on collaboration and agile methodologies, how is that dynamic shifting?
Well, in a truly agile environment, the relationship between PMs, POs, and developers becomes much more collaborative and less hierarchical. Developers are no longer just order takers. They are active participants in the product development process, providing input on feasibility, suggesting alternative solutions, and ultimately sharing responsibility for the success of the product.
So it's more of a partnership, where everyone brings their unique expertise to the table and works together to solve problems and create value for the customer.
Exactly, and this shift requires PMs and POs to develop strong interpersonal skills and a deep understanding of the development process. They need to be able to communicate effectively with developers, build consensus around technical decisions, and foster a culture of mutual respect and collaboration.
It seems like empathy is becoming a crucial skill for product leaders. Not just empathy for the customer, but also empathy for the development team, understanding their challenges and working together to find solutions that benefit everyone.
Absolutely. The best PMs and POs are those who can bridge the gap between the business world and the technical world, advocating for both the customer and the development team, and ultimately creating a shared sense of ownership and purpose.
Now, as we're talking about the future of these roles, I'm curious about your personal perspective. What do you see as the biggest opportunities and challenges facing PMs and POs in the years to come?
Well, one of the biggest opportunities is the growing influence of product management within organizations. More and more companies are recognizing the strategic importance of building great products, and that's translating into more resources, more autonomy, and more influence for product leaders.
So it's an exciting time to be in product management, with the potential to really shape the direction of a company and make a meaningful impact.
Absolutely. But with that influence comes responsibility. PMs and POs need to be prepared to make tough decisions, navigate complex stakeholder relationships, and ultimately be accountable for the success of their products. That's where the challenges come in.
What are some of those key challenges that PMs and POs should be prepared to face?
One challenge is the ever-increasing pace of change. Technology is advancing at an exponential rate, and customer expectations are constantly evolving. PMs and POs need to be incredibly adaptable and comfortable with ambiguity. They need to be able to learn quickly, experiment fearlessly, and pivot when necessary. Another challenge is the growing complexity of the products we're building. As software becomes more sophisticated and interconnected, the skills required to manage those products are becoming more specialized and demanding.
So it's not just about understanding the customer and the market anymore. It's about understanding the underlying technology, the development processes, and the intricate web of dependencies that make up a modern software product.
Exactly, and that requires a continuous investment in learning and development. PMs and POs need to stay abreast of emerging technologies, new development methodologies, and the latest trends in user experience design.
It sounds like lifelong learning is no longer just a nice to have, but a must have for anyone who wants to thrive in the world of product management.
Absolutely. The days of getting a degree and then coasting on that knowledge for your entire career are long gone. The most successful PMs and POs are those who are constantly seeking new knowledge, challenging their assumptions, and expanding their skill sets.
So it's a demanding field, but also an incredibly rewarding one for those who are passionate about solving problems, building great products, and making a real impact.
I couldn't agree more. It's a field that's constantly evolving, which keeps things interesting and challenging, and it offers the opportunity to work on products that touch millions of lives.
Now, as we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive, I'd like to pose a question to our listeners. Given all the trends and challenges we've discussed, what steps are you taking to future-proof your career in product management?
What skills are you focusing on developing, and how are you staying ahead of the curve in this rapidly evolving field?
Take some time to reflect on these questions, and we'll be back in part 3 to continue our conversation, exploring some specific strategies and resources for navigating the future of product management. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the world of product managers and product owners.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the historical evolution of these roles to the impact of AI and the importance of data-driven decision-making.
Yeah. We've also talked about the leadership skills and that constant need for learning that's essential for success.
Right.
So now in this final part, let's shift our focus to some practical strategies and resources that can help you navigate this exciting but sometimes challenging world of product management. Now in part 2, we left our listeners with a question. What are you doing to future-proof your career in product management? It's a question we should all be asking ourselves given how rapidly this field is evolving.
Yeah, it's a great question, and there's no single right answer. But one thing's for sure is that passive learning just isn't enough anymore. We can't just, sit back and wait for information to come to us. We need to be proactive about seeking out new knowledge, experimenting with new tools, and expanding our skill sets.
So it's about embracing that lifelong learning mindset we've talked about and turning it into concrete action. What are some specific strategies that PMs and POs can use to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, one strategy is to build a strong network of peers and mentors. Connect with other product professionals online and in person. Attend industry events. Join online communities where you can share knowledge, ask questions, and learn from each other's experiences. Having a supportive network like that can provide invaluable insights, advice, even job opportunities.
Yeah, those connections can be so valuable, especially in a field that's constantly changing. You need that network of people who understand the challenges you're facing and can offer different perspectives. What are some other resources that PMs and POs can leverage to enhance their skills and knowledge?
Oh, there are tons of great resources available online and offline. Take advantage of online courses and tutorials to learn new skills, like data analysis or UX design. Read industry blogs and publications to stay up to date on the latest trends and best practices. And consider pursuing professional certifications, like the Certified Product Manager or CPM designation, which can really demonstrate your expertise to potential employers.
Yeah, those certifications can be a great way to signal your commitment to the field and your dedication to continuous learning. Now, we've talked a lot about the importance of technical fluency for PMs and POs, but for those who don't come from a technical background, the prospect of learning these skills can feel daunting. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling intimidated by the technical aspects of product management?
I'd say start small and focus on the fundamentals. You don't need to become a software engineer overnight. Begin by learning the basics of how software is built, the different stages of the development process, and the key terminology used by developers. There are lots of great resources available online that can help you get started, and many development teams are happy to answer questions and explain their work to non-technical colleagues.
So it's about building that foundational knowledge and then gradually expanding your understanding through hands-on experience and collaboration with the development team.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions. The best way to learn is by being curious and seeking out information from those who know more than you.
It's about embracing that growth mindset and being comfortable with not knowing everything. Now, another challenge we've touched on is managing stakeholder expectations. PMs and POs often find themselves caught between the demands of different stakeholders, executives, customers, developers, all with their own priorities and perspectives. What are some strategies for navigating those complex relationships and building consensus around product decisions?
One key strategy is to proactively communicate with stakeholders throughout the product development process. Keep them informed about progress, challenges, and decisions being made. This transparency helps build trust and reduces the likelihood of surprises or misunderstandings down the road.
So rather than just presenting a finished product at the end, involve stakeholders in the journey, even if it's just through regular updates or progress reports.
Exactly. And when making decisions, be sure to clearly articulate the rationale behind those choices. Explain how the decision aligns with the overall product strategy and the needs of the customer.
Yeah, that transparency and clear communication can help avoid those "why are we doing this" questions that can really derail a project. Now, as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to come back to the human element of product management. We've talked about data technology processes, but at the end of the day, it's people who build and use products. What are some final thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with about the importance of empathy communication, and leadership in this field.
Yeah, I think to me, those are the qualities that separate good product managers from truly great ones. The ability to deeply understand your customers, to communicate your vision effectively, and to inspire and motivate your team. Those are the skills that ultimately drive product success. And they're skills that can be learned and developed through practice, mentorship, and a genuine desire to make a positive impact.
Those are some inspiring words to end on. So, as we conclude our deep dive into the world of product managers and product owners, I want to thank you for sharing your expertise and insights with our
Oh,
listeners.
it's been my pleasure. It's been great discussing this fascinating and ever-evolving field.
I think we've covered a lot of ground, from the history and evolution of these roles to the impact of emerging technologies and the importance of human-centered leadership.
Yeah, we explored the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead and shared some practical strategies for staying ahead of the curve in this dynamic field.
And I hope our listeners are now feeling even more equipped to navigate the exciting world of product management and shape the future of the products we all use and love.
Definitely remember the key is to embrace change, stay curious, and never stop learning. The future of product management is bright for those who are willing to evolve and adapt alongside it.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. To our listeners, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep building amazing products.
Until next time, keep diving deep